For reaction, let's bring in Florida Congressman Greg Steube. Congressman, what do you make of this?
Well, another attack by the far left on conservatives and the type of things that conservatives stand for and are working for. I mean, we saw 2 assassination attempts on President Trump. We saw what happened to Charlie Kirk recently. This is just another one of these far left extremists attacking conservatives and what we stand for and going after law enforcement officers. Vice President Vance said yesterday that more details will come out that shows that this shooter targeted the ICE facility and was anti-ICE. So they're probably far left. This type of activity has to stop. I hope they put the full force of the court against these individuals that may have been involved in this. Obviously, the shooter killed himself, but there may have been other people involved. The last time this ICE facility was attacked, there was a group of Antifa individuals. Maybe they were involved in the planning of this as well. Hopefully, they'll get to the bottom of it.
Congressman, let's move to the shutdown, potential shutdown, but it feels like it's a likely shutdown. What's your sense at this point? Because, I mean, let's be honest, politically, Chuck Schumer, I mean, he's going to take flack from the left if he decides to cut a deal. So I think that's off the table. It sounds like it's going to be a Schumer shutdown. But then, I shouldn't say but, now you have President Trump specifically saying through Russ voted OMB that they're looking at reduction in force. In other words, rather than just furloughs with the shutdown, it would actually be potentially mass firings for some certain departments. So that ups the stakes big time here and puts Democrats in a pickle. Your sense this morning?
Yeah, and probably 80% of federal workers, especially in the D.C. area, are Democrats. So that's the individuals that would be cut. We're $37 trillion in debt. If we do go into a shutdown, it gives the agencies and the administration broad latitude to take the necessary actions to prevent us from financially going off the cliff. So it allows them to do that type of activity. I don't understand why we let Chuck Schumer involve himself in this at all. They just changed the rules in the Senate to allow majority push through President Trump's judges. Why don't we do that to keep the government open? The bill passed the House. It's in the Senate. Why should we go to Democrats and Chuck Schumer to get some type of negotiation agreement just to keep the government open? The majority of the Senate voted for this bill. Why shouldn't the majority of the Senate dictate for the American people to keep our government open? They changed the rules as it relates to judges, changed the rules as it relates to government funding. Let's get the government back open and focus on what the American people want us to be focused on, instead of giving Chuck Schumer the ability to negotiate and try to put $1 trillion more spending on a CR just to appease 7 Democrats to vote for the bill.
So just real quick,
as always,
a quick follow-up.
Go ahead.
Just
go
want
ahead,
to do a
David.
quick follow-up. So you predict a shutdown next week?
That's what the president is saying. Unless Schumer completely changes his position and 7 Democrats come along, we'll be in a shutdown. But it doesn't, it's like a month period of time. So it'll be people will get paid at the end of the month in September. So you won't be really feeling the impact of this financially till the end of October, unless the administration starts laying off workers. And then obviously that's going to be very painful for the Democrats, not as painful for Republicans. And this is Schumer's shutdown. The Republicans passed this in the House. They passed the bill in the Senate with a majority of the Senate. It's Democrats that are keeping the government closed down if they choose to go this course of action.
The shutdown, of course, one of the headlines coming out of D.C. Here's another one that I'm finding interesting. This is from Just News. It says DOJ nearing decision on indicting former FBI Director James Comey in the coming days, so say sources. Then, of course, there's the John Bolton thing. The FBI has reportedly found classified documents in his office and at his home. It seems to me, Congressman, that this is really the deep state really acting here. How much of a concern should this be to average everyday Americans? Yeah, there's shock value in the headlines, but how much of a real concern should this be to everyday Americans in terms of national security and otherwise?
I believe he should be charged with treason. I mean, he was involved in the largest deep state operation to undermine the president of the United States in the history of our country. Bigger than Watergate, bigger than any scandal. They used the intelligence apparatus. They used the FISA court system to spy on an opponent's campaign. Then they created a falsehood that the Trump campaign was colluding and conspiring with Russia. And then the intelligence community perpetrated that falsehood. Mainstream media perpetrated that falsehood. And now we know that all of that was made up. All of that was wrong. And it was all to undermine President Trump, the president of the United States. He should absolutely be held accountable for that. Unfortunately, they're just looking at what he said to Congress and charging him for lying to Congress, which is a crime, but nowhere near the level of crime of what I believe he should be charged with. I'm sure that they're trying to look at what they can get a charge for in a grand jury indictment, and that's fine. But Americans want justice for all of the corruption that has happened at the highest levels of our government all of those years, and he was right in the middle of it.
Sure was. Sure was. So do you think that if the government shuts down and people are fired, that the Democrats will use this to their advantage, or do you think Republicans can turn that around and use it to their advantage? I'm talking in terms of the media narrative and, of course, the midterms.
They will. They already are. Hakeem Jeffries is telling people in Virginia, hey, if you lose your job, don't forget that when you go to vote in November. So obviously the Democrats they always are going to try to use this to their political advantage, despite the fact that they're the ones that are causing the shutdown. Only one Democrat in the House voted for the CR, which typically in years past, I've been in Congress 4 terms, Democrats have always wanted to keep the government open. But now because President Trump is in office, they want to try to use this as a political weapon against him, but it's the Democrats that are standing in the way, not Republicans. And this was a clean CR that just kept the government funded for like another 6 or 8 weeks to give time for the appropriations process for these different conferences to occur between the House and the Senate. So they will definitely try. The mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, will obviously try to perpetuate another lie that it's Trump's fault that the government shut down, when in fact it's Democrats that are standing in the way. But I think the American people are smart enough to see through that.
Congressman Greg Steube, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Congressman.
Yeah.
Good to see you.